So, Sylvie, I want you to tell me more about this high achieving midlife rebel, if you would.
Yes, absolutely. So my typical client is a high achieving midlife rebel who has created success in their life and is usually the leader in rooms and can run the meeting and plan the vacation and do all the things, but at the expense of their voice. And they don't know who they are. They don't know really what they need. Something's missing. And so they can show up and they have all the success in business and in life, but it shows up usually in their relationships, and there's a disconnect, and they're looking for their authentic voice and who they really are. And so that's where I help people walk in their journey.
Oh, wow. I can probably relate to that. I bet a lot of people that are watching this can relate to that. I mean, could you tell me more about this person? Like, how did they get, how did they get to this way of being, that behavior of like showing up and being the one that's, organizing things and, how does that happen exactly?
Yeah, well, I think oftentimes it starts in childhood, and we kind of take on these roles to counterbalance the energy and just what's out of balance in our family system. And so we become the reliable ones, the ones that can kind of be calm in crisis. And we've just found safety really from early on in just getting it done and doing it. And that can be like a form of flight, right? Like a fight, fright, flight, and freeze and fawn. It can be a form of flight because when we overwork, we don't have to necessarily focus on what's going on internally. And so we control what we are able to control, which oftentimes is work. And we know how to read a room, we know how, how to talk to people. And so we just kind of over time, it just all clicks into place. But then you kind of get into the spot where you create, the golden handcuffs where you're making enough money. You don't love what you're doing, but you don't want to walk away because you have a good income. And so I help people just find their own voice, whether that's you stay in the same job and just shift how you're working it so that it shows up more for you and more fulfilling. Or maybe it's time to jump into a whole new arena, but it's really just what caused you to silence your voice, and where did you learn to just get it done and take care of all the details. A lot of it is also trusting that, or not trusting that other people are going to come through for you. So a big like hyper independence, right? Where you feel like no one else is going to do it or do it right. So I'm just going to do it and take care of it. But then you hire these people, but then you don't even give them the work to do because you are afraid that they're going to mess it up. And so then you end up working all the late nights. And so it can show up in so many different ways.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, just like flight totally. Like when you say it that's a flight response, that makes a lot of sense because it's a distraction. It's a total distraction. And I think that it probably because you probably are getting rewarded for this behavior, right? Like you said, I mean, maybe financially or maybe just within your company if you're in a job, but you might be seen as like this achiever and someone you can count on. But what's the consequence for you if you're like this? Like, what's the consequence that you're experiencing? I mean, even though maybe it's worked for you in the past, but now it's not working so well.
Yeah. So a lot of times that can show up in our body, right? Where we're just having some chronic things showing up that we can't really explain in our bodies, like, hey, I need a break for a minute. It can show up in relationships where I kind of use the analogy of a pressure cooker, right? Got really good at suppressing our emotions and just stuffing it down, and it works for a while until it doesn't. And then it's like it all comes out, and then it's messy in relationships. And so it can show up in different ways where it's like, whoa, something's off, something's not working here. Or it's just exhaustion and constant burnout and that feeling of like, I'm just living to work instead of living to live. Most of the people that I work with haven't really known, like joy has been elusive, right? They're like, I have everything, but I'm not connecting to that joy part of life.
It sounds like you know what you're talking about.
I may know this person very well.
Yeah. Yeah, because like if you've experienced this, also I'm curious to know like what's maybe the first step that you took towards changing this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think I was trying to change it for many years and I tried everything. I never found anything that really got to it, right? I did the coaching, I did the therapy, I did the, jumping off of things, facing my fears and all the things. And it just didn't really shift that internal needle for me. And EFT was really the tool that really helped me start to acknowledge and connect my mind and my heart because I was definitely disconnected from my body. I was very logical, very intelligent, very overthinking, which is another flight response, right? I'm just going to think about this a ton and then I don't have to actually do anything about it. Um, I found I was in confusion a lot, which is another way to not move forward, right? We kind of keep ourselves stuck. I didn't realize this at the time, but as I started just kind of shifting these layers and allowing one layer at a time to just get moved out of the way, it started to show me this roadmap of how I created all of this. And so it just allowed me to take one step in the direction that I wanted to go. And really, the revision work that you and I have done together too has just beautifully kind of dovetailed into all of that, where it's about kind of sitting with those old pieces, those young pieces of ourselves and allowing them to be heard, seen, supported, loved, protected, and then being able to say, okay, well, if that's not working, how do I want my life to live? And what would it feel like if I was living that dream life? And start creating that imprint in your memory, a future memory, but that your nervous system can really attach to and start building towards that. And so it was kind of a blend of kind of sitting with the pain and the parts that were just not caught up yet, bringing them all to the present or continuously, and then creating from there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because when you say that, I'm thinking about, our self-concept and how, like, if you're this person that you're the kind of person that, shows up and is the high achiever and, is organizing and controlling everything, but you've lost your voice, right? Then who can you be? Like, how can you be a different person? So, like, what's the concept of yourself that you're shifting into? Right? Like, how can you blend? Because I have a feeling that that stuff is kind of probably your superpower too. But
Right.
how do you blend that into a new concept of yourself that has the things that this old concept of yourself doesn't have?
Yeah. For me, it came down to, I think, just self-acceptance and worthiness. It's like that tendency of like, if I just achieve enough goals or get enough designations or certifications, then I'm going to feel worthy enough of the joy of the life of being able to take a break, right? Usually, like breaks and relaxation for this type of person, it feels like it has to be earned. It's not just a right? Like I have to, once I get all this done, then I can take a break. But then something else happens before that break. And then you're like, okay, once I get that done, and it's just this like mirage that keeps kind of moving into the distance, right? And so really just coming down to loving myself and connecting with myself enough where there's nothing to prove. I don't have to prove it doesn't my worth is not a negotiable thing. My worth is not conditional. There's nothing that I don't have to show up anyway. And so as I started to kind of really relax into that, it just allowed that flow to be able to explore of, okay, then how do I want this to look? And so I do think it comes down to a self-concept of just self-worth and love and acceptance and just allowing things to flow. It's so much easier when you can allow things to flow.
Mhm.
When I started shifting gears and really got out of control and into the flow, my business just took off and I was like just being carried by it. I wasn't pushing a boulder up a hill every day like I felt like I was before.
Oh, wow. I know a lot of people probably can relate to that and feel like they're still pushing a boulder up the hill. And I know I used to feel that way too. Sometimes, occasionally, I still do. And then I'm like, why am I pushing this boulder again? Right? But I know what you mean about the flow and how, like, this idea, because at least for me, I can say for me, this idea of sort of stepping into a role, because when you own your own company, you really have to be a CEO, right? Like you have to own that. And it's a very different role than being an employee, say the employee role. And I feel like the employee, this high achiever that we're talking about, feels like they have to show up and earn their worth by showing up and doing hard work. But we all know the CEO doesn't do that, right? Like the CEO holds the vision and the CEO is delegating tasks to others because they have to have that high impact. Do you feel like that because at least for me that's been a difficult, I'm still in transition of that, but how do you see that transition from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, let me think. So it is like for me right now, because I'm also still building some new systems and stuff, so I'm still in it, but I'm building them to automate a lot of things, right? And the old me wouldn't have trusted that, and I would have wanted to make sure, I like edited different messages to make sure it was perfect for that person, right? Like when really like an overall message can get the gist and get the job done. And so I'm just learning to let go of little spaces where can I kind of remove myself and allow this to just flow on its own. And then just trusting too that it's all going to come together and really not pushing. I really have gotten into this agreement with myself that I'm not going to get overwhelmed no matter how much work is on the docket for the day, because this is my joy life, and I'm going to lead from joy and allow joy in every corner that I can of my day, even if it is, working on the automations and stuff. I can take a break and have a moment of recharge and then come back um and I did not used to do that. I didn't used to do that.
I think that is a big shift. Yeah, I know what you mean because it's like, okay, there are a lot of like there's endless tasks when you own your own business. And when you're in a transition where you're scaling, you may still be doing some things that at some point you're going to hand over to someone else, but you actually kind of have to be involved, right, in the building of systems, the automation. But yeah, it really is about like letting go of things that we used to micromanage and like you said, like releasing control and trusting others to support you, to support your business and your success. But the high achiever, midlife rebel probably still isn't able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so and a lot of times not even know what they want, right? Like we ask, okay, we can talk about the issue and how it's showing up that's not serving us right now that we want to shift. But sometimes it's hard to even say, okay, so what do you want, right? And answer that question can be tricky sometimes. So sometimes it's even just dancing with that to start to get glimpses of what that new vision actually looks like.
Mhm. So do you feel like that's when someone can find their voice, when they find that vision?
Yeah, I think once they have that vision, then that's really the start of it. And then we just look for areas where it's scary to use your voice. And why is it scary, right? Maybe it's with this one person, maybe it's around this one subject, maybe, it's with a group of people. We just look at kind of where is that getting stopped and how can we dance with that fear, with that resistance, with, whatever's kind of causing the block there, and just allow it to shift, the energy to shift from it.
Yeah, dance with it, right? You got to dance with it. I love that. So, I would like to actually ask because I know you just published a book, and I would like to actually ask you a little bit more about. Could you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah, yes, it's a collaborative book, and it's called Together We Rise: The Wounded Healer's Enlightened Journey to a Collective Ascension. And we just today hit international bestsellers just this morning. So that was wild. It's went bestseller on day one, and now we're international bestsellers. So all the authors are now officially international best-selling authors, and it's amazing. The group has been amazing. I came up with this collaboration because I was published as a co-author in a collaboration last year, called She Leads from Within, and it was about how women are changing business through intuition. And it was an amazing experience. And when it was all over, I contacted the publisher and I just said, would you be interested in, I don't know how many of these you do, would you be interested in putting together? I just would love to see out in the world this concept because I've been on a personal healing journey for over a decade and physically, and I've met some amazing healers and transformational coaches, and I want to amplify their voices because I really feel like the world could use more stories of hope, courage, awakening, and that's what these are. So it's all these personal stories of these people who are in the trenches doing it, doing their own work, and how they kind of got to doing what they're doing and what they do in the world, and how they see their work impacts the collective as a whole, and how we really are all connected. And so we've been meeting for a year and writing our chapters and getting to know each other. And it's just been a magical experience. All the proceeds go to the Center of Mind Body Connection, which helps with emotional and physical trauma worldwide. So it's all going to a great cause. It's just really a gift and an offering to just spread hope and healing.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. Yeah. So, I mean, stories are so important. I know that of all the things that have really sparked my desire to change or inspired me to change, I think it really is because I heard somebody's story about something, that they overcame something or when we realize like there's someone else that has something we wanted, actually overcame a challenge, like it really inspires us and makes it more, I think it makes it more realistic or more accessible to us when we hear stories of other people's process.
Yeah, totally. I think the biggest thing that I've found with myself and people I work with is that we feel like our experience is really unique and we're alone. And I think when we hear other people's stories, it starts to open up this awakening of, wow, I'm not alone. We all go through these different tribulations and challenges. And there are people that have walked this path and can light the path for me. And I don't have to I don't have to bushwhack this way and make this super hard journey when there's a beautiful path with like refreshments and all the things, along this way that someone could just guide me down. Right. And so I used to be one that would like um take what's the word that I would take satisfaction in going the hard way, like not even meaning to, right? Like unconsciously, I would just, there was that belief of like, if it's going to be worth it, it has to be hard. Like I have to really put effort in for this to be worth it. I've totally changed my beliefs about that. But I would take the bushwhacking path, like even if I knew the path was there, I'd be like, nope, I'm going this way. And I didn't know why I did that. And so now, these stories I think do offer just little lit up paths of you can come this way. Right. Then I think there's also there's also so much power in sharing your story. Um, my story in this one, I panicked as soon as I wrote it. I was like, oh man, I got to rewrite this. And then there's a part of me that's like, no, just keep going. And so I did, and I was able to kind of evolve through it. And so now there was so much healing and just pushing my comfort zone, of my story too. Um, and so there's healing on both sides. It's just such a beautiful process.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know because I'm in the middle of writing a book too, and it really is it quite brings up a lot. It can be really triggering when you start writing and sharing something personal, and it's going to go out into the world. And it is a healing process, especially to really just own your story, to actually own your story like that is it's healing for the writer as well as like it offers healing for the reader as well.
Totally.
So I'm sure that we'll put some description in the description. We'll put a link so people can jump in onto Amazon, and it's on Amazon, right? And order
Yeah.
that.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah. So also, is there a way that the best way people could get in contact with you in case they would like to learn more about working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to my website, taprooteft.com, and it says a little bit about me. And there's a spot where you can just book a call, and it's just a connection call to see what's going on with you and if I'm a good fit for this next segment of your journey.
Yeah, so I'll definitely put that link in the description too as well. And but before we wrap up, I would actually like to know, like, if there's one thing that someone that was listening to this could take away from you, what would be that, like, one thing you want them to take away?
Hmm. That if joy feels elusive, just know that it's already who you are, and it just needs to be uncovered.
Beautiful. I love that. Simple,
Yeah.
simple and true. Thanks so much for being with me today, Sylvie. It's always a pleasure to have a beautiful conversation with you.
Yeah, thanks, friend.
Okay, bye bye, everyone.
Bye.